welcome to my channel. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to subscribe and like. The red sandstorm roared across Eryndar's desolate expanse, a howling beast of grit and heat that carried the acrid tang of scorched metal and the sharp crack of energy grenades. Captain Lucas Kane stood defiant in the heart of the battlefield, his black armor streaked with purple blood, its energy conduits flickering faint blue. His breath fogged the cracked visor of his helmet, gray eyes scanning the wreckage. Fallen Eryndorian warriors lay scattered, their silver-gray skin glinting under the massive red sun, bulbous red eyes dimmed, purple blood pooling in the sand. The Earth Alliance had crushed their assault, but the air still reeked of death. "Perimeter secure, Captain!" Lieutenant Chen's voice crackled through the comms, taut but controlled. "All targets neutralized save one. Awaiting orders." Lucas nodded, his gaze locking onto a figure kneeling 15 paces away. A female Eryndorian warrior, her hands gripping a glowing staff, plunged deep into the sand, propping up her exhausted frame. Her silver-gray skin bore scorch marks, black hair whipped wildly in the wind. Her torn gray armor, etched with faint purple lines, exposed a lithe, resilient form. Lucas approached, heavy boots crunching sand, his plasma rifle humming with lethal light. The Eryndorians were known for their savagery, but 8 months of war over Eryndar's energy mines had pushed them to the brink. One more death was just a number. Yet she spoke, her voice low and resonant, like the desert wind. "Do not kill me, human! I will offer you the vow upon the wind." He froze, finger hovering over the trigger. Her words cut like a blade, carrying a strange weight, not the desperate plea he'd heard in 12 years of war. "What did you say?" he asked, voice steady through the helmet speaker. She raised her head, bulbous red eyes locking onto his visor, a mix of fear and defiance. "My people are breaking. I choose life. I am Vera, daughter of Warlord Tyrannes. I can offer the vow upon the wind, a sacred right to serve you." Lucas lowered his rifle slightly, astonishment overriding caution. Tyrannes, a name intelligence reports whispered like a specter, the mastermind behind suicidal raids. If she was his daughter, she was worth more than a corpse. But the vow upon the wind, an alien ritual, absent from any military manual. "You'd betray your kin, your father?" he pressed, voice cold, probing. Vera's lips curled in a bitter smile, purple blood dripping to the sand. "My father sent me and this army into a furnace to buy time for his northern fortress. I owe him nothing." Her eyes blazed, proud despite her exhaustion. "Your kind will take Eryndor. I choose reality." Her words struck a chord. Intelligence had reported fractures in the Eryndorian Council, warriors abandoned for the elite's gain. She could be a key, or a trap. Sand lashed his armor, the storm screaming, but Lucas felt his pulse shift, a subtle defiance of logic. "Stand!" he commanded, lowering his rifle, eyes still sharp. Vera struggled to her feet, leaning on her staff, sand clinging to her wounds. She grimaced but stood tall, unyielding. Pulling the staff free, she offered its handle to him, head slightly bowed, voice firm. "My life is yours. Decide." Lucas studied her, gray eyes tracing from her blazing red gaze to the faintly glowing staff. This wasn't surrender. It was an oath with a weight he didn't yet grasp. He took the staff, feeling its metal hum, alive with energy. "I'm Captain Lucas Kane," he said, locking eyes with her. "You're coming with me." Chen approached, rifle trained on Vera, eyes wary. "Orders for the prisoner, sir?" Lucas glanced at Vera, her red eyes steady despite her trembling frame. "Prep the transport," he ordered, voice clipped. "We have a guest." Chen hesitated but nodded, stepping back to summon the evac team. Lucas motioned Vera forward, keeping his distance, rifle ready. She limped ahead, each step heavy but resolute, never looking back. The storm churned red dust, as if Eryndor itself mourned his choice. A distant explosion roared. Lucas spun, rifle raised. An Eryndorian scout ship, wreathed in flames, plummeted from the sky, crashing into the sand 100 meters away. "Team 2, report!" he barked into the comms. Static hissed, then a panicked voice. Scout craft, sir! No signs of life. Lucas clenched his jaw, glancing at Vera. She stood still, red eyes fixed on the burning wreck, silent. Engine sabotage pre-crash, Chen reported, jogging up. Not our doing. Lucas frowned. Scout ships didn't fight, they carried secrets. Sweep the wreckage, he ordered. Look for comms or data. Chen nodded, leading a team toward the crash. Lucas turned to Vera, a voice icy. What do you know about that ship? She met his gaze, red eyes flickering briefly, but her voice was calm. Not one of ours. Could be Council scouts or... She paused, lips tightening. Or what? Lucas pressed, rifle inching closer. Vera inhaled, sand dusting her purple-stained cheek. Or someone else. My father doesn't control all of Eryndor. Her words chilled him, like a gust through the storm. Intelligence had never mentioned a third faction. Danger prickled, but time was short. Move, he ordered, nudging her toward the transport. Vera obeyed, her staff leaving a faint purple trail in the sand. Lucas followed, gripped tight on his rifle, mind racing. The scout ship, the vow upon the wind, Tyrannisa's daughter, pieces of a deadly puzzle. The transport's engines roared, its hatch opening to spill white light. Guards aimed rifles at Vera, eyes hard. Lucas gestured her aboard, voice firm. Sit tight, no tricks. Vera nodded, stepping into the bay, her silhouette slender but unbowed. Lucas glanced back at the battlefield, sand swallowing blood and bodies. He didn't know if he'd saved an ally or invited a viper into his base, but Vera's red eyes had sparked something in him, a gamble only a human would dare. The hatch sealed, the storm raging outside. Lucas sat across from Vera, her staff beside him, glowing faintly. The vow upon the wind, he said, voice low. What is it? Vera met his gaze, red eyes glinting. The breath of the soul, joined with the victor. A vow of loyalty and vulnerability. Lucas raised an eyebrow but didn't press. The transport shuddered, slicing through the storm, carrying secrets that would change everything. The transport roared, tearing through Eryndor's sand-choked atmosphere, engines screaming like the desert storm. In the cold steel hold, Vera sat rigid on a metal bench, wrists bound by pulsing green energy cuffs, their light dancing across her silver-gray skin. The air was stifling, sweat beading on her brow like stars on stone. Across from her, Captain Lucas Kane watched, gray eyes unreadable. He'd shed his blood-streaked armor, his black commander's uniform hugging a battle-hardened frame, scars of 12 years' war etched in every line. Your kind thrives in this heat, Lucas said, voice low, breaking the heavy silence. Vera nodded slightly, her bulbous red eyes glowing like embers in the dim hold. Eryndorians dwell in cool valleys, where wind sings through stone, she replied, her voice resonant, echoing the desert's hum. This heat, to us, it's an intimate whisper. A faint purple flush crossed her gray cheek, like blood rising under thin skin. The vow upon the wind is to share the soul's breath, to meld with the victor. That's why I offered it. Lucas raised an eyebrow, arms crossed, eyes sharp as a blade. So your plea wasn't just to survive? His tone was dry, but a flicker of curiosity betrayed him, as if her words had stirred something deep. Vera's lips curved in a faint smile, a small cut leaking purple blood. I was desperate, yes, she admitted, red eyes never leaving him. But the vow is a warrior's tradition. The defeated offer it, pledging loyalty until freed. She tilted her head, eyes glinting with intrigue. Your people don't do this, do they? Far from it. Lucas shot back, voice hard as steel. We don't turn prisoners into companions. The last word came with a slight pause, as if he were probing its true meaning. Vera's soft laugh rang like wind through stone, sharp yet soothing. Then why am I alive, Captain? She leaned forward, red eyes piercing his defenses, daring him to reveal his truth. The transport lurched, engines growling as it plowed through a sand cloud. Lucas gripped the bench, eyes locked on Vera. She sat still, unblinking, despite the cuffs biting her wrists. You're alive because you're useful, he said, voice steady, though a hint of doubt crept in, as if he questioned his own reasoning. Through the viewport, the Earth Alliance base loomed, a steel fortress, its anti-storm energy field glowing, floodlights cutting the desert dark like defiant flames. The hatch opened, hot air flooding in, thick with the scent of scorched sand and metal. 2 guards stepped forward, plasma rifles trained on Vera, eyes wary. "On your feet," one barked. Vera rose, back straight, though her wounds made her tremble. Lucas stood beside her, gripping her faintly glowing staff, its purple light pulsing like a heartbeat. "Take her to medical," he ordered, voice brooking no argument. "Patch her up, fit a tracker. High security wing, not a cell." The guards nodded, escorting Vera down a gleaming corridor, their boots echoing on steel. Base personnel paused, staring at the first living Eryndorian prisoner, her presence a spark in their midst. She walked tall, red eyes scanning the curious and hostile gazes. Lucas followed, his datapad buzzing with a report from the scout ship's wreckage. No comms, no data, just a metal fragment etched with ancient Eryndorian runes. His brow furrowed, unease rising like a desert gust. In the med bay, the doctor examined Vera with clinical detachment, pausing as he touched her skin. "Like desert stone," he muttered, eyes alight with curiosity. He applied healing gel to her burns, the chemical tang filling the air. Vera winced but made no sound, red eyes tracking his every move. "Your physiology mirrors ours, but alien," the doctor said, studying the scanner. "We evolved in similar conditions," Vera replied, voice low. "Just on different worlds." Lucas stood at the door, gripping her staff, eyes fixed on her. "Tracker?" he asked, voice sharp. The doctor nodded, attaching a small metal band to Vera's wrist, its green light pulsing like a vein. "Done, sir," he reported. "She's stable but needs rest." Lucas signaled the guards. "Take her." Vera glanced at him, red eyes unreadable, then followed the guards without a word. As the door hissed shut, Lucas checked his datapad. A new report from Tex. The runes matched an encrypted frequency, not Eryndorian or Alliance. His frown deepened, thoughts spiraling. The scout ship wasn't Vera's, but whose? And where did the signal lead? He pocketed the datapad, striding down the corridor, boots ringing on steel. Vera was a key, but also a deadly enigma. Her vow upon the wind, a pledge, a ploy, or both? He didn't know, but her red eyes had planted a seed of trust only a human would dare nurture. The corridor led to the command center, where Major Torres waited. "Captain Kane," she said, voice cold. "Your prisoner's stirring trouble. The council wants a report." Lucas nodded but stayed silent, his mind on Vera. The signal, the runes, the vow, they were pieces of a puzzle, and humanity's grit would solve it, even if it meant trusting an alien. 3 days later, Lucas Kane stood outside Vera's room, the corridor's white light glinting off his black commander's uniform, faint scratches from the battlefield etched into the fabric. The small chamber held a cold metal cot and a window framing Eryndor's desert, where red sand danced under a hazy sky. Vera sat on the cot, clad in a simple gray jumpsuit, her black hair loose, red bulbous eyes burning like unquenched flames. "Your intel on the southern base was spot on," Lucas said, voice low, arms crossed. "Tyrannisa's forces retreated as you predicted. You've earned a point, but not my trust." Vera rose, moving with the grace of wind over sand, each step light but deliberate, as if she carried the desert in her bones. "What would earn it, Captain?" she asked, her voice soft but sharp, like a blade cloaked in silk, her red eyes glowing like embers. "More intel? My father's fortress coordinates?" She stepped closer, close enough for Lucas to catch the scent of dry sand and metal on her, alien yet strangely compelling. He tightened his crossed arms, maintaining distance, but his shoulders tensed, as if his body warred with his mind. "If I take that intel," he said, gray eyes narrowing, "what happens when you're no longer useful?" Vera's soft laugh echoed like a desert breeze, sharp yet soothing. "Depends on how the war ends," she replied, voice low, red eyes locked on him. "How do you want it, Lucas Kane? In blood or mutual gain?" The air in the small room thickened, as if the storm outside had seeped in, carrying their tension. Lucas didn't step back, but his pulse skipped, a beat he refused to acknowledge. "What are you proposing?" he asked, voice cold, probing. "An alliance?" Vera tilted her head, red eyes glinting like desert stars. "My father doesn't speak for all Eryndorians," she said, her voice hardening, like stone cracking under pressure. "Many want peace. I was sent to die for suggesting talks." Her cool fingers brushed his arm, sending a jolt like static through his skin, reminiscent of her staff's energy. "Let me prove my sincerity, with the vow upon the wind." Lucas caught her hand, easing it away firmly, feeling the strange chill of her skin under his palm. "On Earth, we sign treaties, shake hands," he said, voice hard as steel. "No need for strange rituals." Vera's smile was mischievous, her eyes twinkling like wind-tossed sand. "So rigid," she teased, voice light but cutting. "Is that why humans are always so tense? Never exploring, more intriguing diplomacy?" Despite himself, Lucas's lips twitched, a fleeting smirk before his face hardened again. "You're persistent," he said, his tone softening, almost amused. "It's how I survive," Vera replied, her red eyes softening, like a flame finding calm. "I'm trying to understand you. You should try understanding me." Lucas opened his mouth to reply, but his wrist comm buzzed, cutting him off. He checked it, the datapad screen flaring with an urgent alert. The scout ship's encrypted signal matched a transmission from an unknown source, not Eryndorian or Alliance. His brow furrowed, unease rising like sand before a storm. "We'll talk later," he said, voice sharp, pocketing the datapad. "I'm summoned." He turned to leave, but Vera called out, her voice low but resonant. "Think on my words, Captain. This war benefits no one. Together, we can find a better path." Lucas paused, back rigid, feeling her red eyes like a blade at his neck. Then he strode out, the steel door hissing shut, leaving Vera with the red desert beyond her window. The corridor led to the command center, where Major Elena Torres waited, datapad in hand, her eyes cold as steel. "Captain Kane," she said, voice sharp. "Your prisoner's causing a stir. The Council demands a detailed report. Now." Lucas nodded but stayed silent, his mind on Vera. The signal, the runes, the vow, a deadly puzzle, and humanity's resolve would unravel it, even if it meant dancing with an alien's truth. Inside, Colonel Reynolds, base commander, sat at the head of the table, his gaze stern. "Kane," he rumbled, voice like thunder. "Your prisoner's intel is valuable, but she's Tyrannisa's daughter. Too risky. Justify keeping her alive." Lucas stood tall, voice calm but firm. "She knows the Eryndorian inner workings, sir. Her southern base tip gave us the upper hand. She could know more, Tyrannisa's fortress, or beyond." Torres smirked, cutting in. "Or she's a spy, luring us into a trap." Lucas met her gaze, gray eyes icy. "If she were a spy, she wouldn't give accurate intel. I propose we extract more before judging." Reynolds nodded slightly, but his eyes remained hard. 3 days, Kane. No results, she faces Torres's interrogation." Lucas left the meeting, mind heavy. 3 days to prove Vera's worth, or she'd face the interrogation room, where no one emerged whole. He returned to the high-security wing, pausing at Vera's door. Through the glass, he saw her at the window, gazing at the desert, her silhouette slender but unyielding. What did she know about the signal? And why did he feel she was more than a prisoner? He knocked and entered. Vera turned, red eyes glinting. "Back so soon, Captain?" she asked, her voice light but teasing. Lucas didn't smile, his tone low. "The scout ship's signal, it's not your father's." "What do you know?" Vera tilted her head, her gaze flickering briefly. "Little," she said, voice measured. "But factions in the Eryndorian Council act alone. My father doesn't control everything." Lucas stepped closer, eyes narrowing. "Speak plainly." Vera smiled faintly but said nothing, turning to the desert. "Give me time, Lucas Kane. I'll give you the truth." Vera turned back, her bulbous red eyes blazing like a desert flame in the night. Her fingers brushed the monitoring band on her wrist, its green light pulsing faintly, as if she sensed the rhythm of her own captivity. "Time," she murmured, her voice soft but sharp, like wind slicing through stone. Lucas didn't hear, but her eyes, resolute and enigmatic, promised an act that would shatter the dark. He stepped out, the steel door hissing shut, its echo ringing, but in the small room, Vera began counting the grains of sand falling, awaiting her moment. He stood there, desert sand still clinging to his boots, a reminder that Eryndor hadn't released him. Vera was a key, but also a flame that could burn everything. He turned away, silent, but her words, "Together we can find a better path," echoed in his mind, like the desert wind that never stilled. Midnight, and a sharp knock sliced through the silence of Lucas Kane's quarters, crisp as stone cracking in the dark. It was too late for visitors. He sprang up, plasma pistol in hand, its blue glow flaring in the shadows. The door slid open, and his breath caught. Vera stood there, a lithe shadow in her gray jumpsuit, bulbous red eyes blazing like embers. At her feet, a guard lay slumped, his rifle discarded. "He's only stunned," Vera said swiftly, voice low but urgent, hands raised in surrender. "I need to speak with you alone. Someone's eavesdropping, twisting my words to feed lies to both sides." Lucas aimed the pistol, finger tight on the trigger, gray eyes cold as steel. "How'd you escape?" He advanced, forcing her back, but Vera didn't flinch. Her faint smile was sharp as a desert gust. "Your security wasn't built for Eryndorian physiology," she said, voice resonant, stepping into the room, making Lucas retreat. "I sense energy flows in machines. No time. Someone in your command is working with a third force, not my father." "Who?" Lucas demanded, voice rumbling like thunder, pistol steady. Vera stepped closer, barely a foot away, red eyes grave, devoid of the usual spark. "I'm not sure," she said, voice slow but firm. "But I caught an encrypted signal through my cell's monitor. Not Eryndorian. Someone wants us to keep fighting, to destroy each other." Lucas wanted to dismiss her, but the anomalies, flawed reports, the scout ship's signal, made him pause. "Proof?" he pressed, eyes narrowing. "None yet," Vera replied, voice low. "But I know how to find it." She stood closer, her cool breath carrying the scent of dry sand and metal. "I need you to trust me, Lucas. Not for the vow, but because this is bigger." His name on her lips, soft yet commanding, sent his pulse off kilter, a beat he couldn't ignore. She reached out, cool fingers brushing his pistol, lowering it slowly. "Let me prove it." Before he could react, Vera rose on her toes, her purple lips meeting his, alien, startling, like a desert breeze over hot stone, soothing yet searing. Lucas froze, reason screaming this was a trap, but the raw sincerity in her red eyes pierced his defenses. When she pulled back, her gaze burned, a desert flame unquenchable. "A kiss is a vow of truth," she whispered. "I cannot lie to you." Lucas stood rooted, breath heavy, the pistol now a useless weight. This could be a ploy, but her intensity, her touch, shattered his doubts. "What do you need?" he asked, voice hoarse, eyes locked on hers. Vera inhaled, her cool fingers tightening on his, blending with his warmth. "Access to your comms system," she said. "I can trace the signal." Lucas stared, feeling his pulse race, faster than it should. "If you're lying." "I'm not," she cut in, fingers weaving tighter with his. "Since you spared me, I've seen in you what I fight for, hope." Her words were a blade, sharp yet gentle, toppling his final wall. Lucas pulled her close, his lips finding hers in a fierce kiss, releasing the tension coiled since the red sands. Her breath was cool, but the kiss burned, a flame hidden under stone. When they parted, Vera whispered, red eyes softening, "Whatever happens, this is true." Lucas exhaled, mind reeling. He'd crossed the line, but there was no turning back. "Fine," he said, voice low. "You get access. But if you're wrong, we both pay." Vera nodded, her gaze steadfast. "I understand, Captain." He led her to a corner, where his personal terminal glowed faintly. Lucas keyed in his code, the screen flaring with the comms interface. "Do it," he said, standing close, pistol still in hand, though he knew he wouldn't use it. Vera leaned in, fingers dancing over the keys with startling speed, red eyes glinting as she sifted data. "The signal," she muttered. "It's from within the base, routed through an external node." She looked up, eyes tense. "They're close, Lucas. Too close." Before he could press her, a sharp hiss echoed from the corridor. Lucas spun, pistol raised. The door burst open, and Major Elena Torres stood there, plasma rifle blazing with lethal light, flanked by 2 guards. "Captain Kane," she said, voice cold as desert stone. "Step away from the prisoner. You're under suspicion of treason." Her gaze shifted to Vera, sharp as a blade. "And you, creature, have manipulated my officer." Lucas stepped forward, shielding Vera, pistol aimed at Torres. "You're mistaken, Major," he said, voice low but firm. "There's a larger plot. The signal, it's not Eryndorian, it's from inside the base." Torres's laugh was icy, her lips curling. "The cell's cameras show her sending the signal. You're enthralled, Kane." Vera stood behind him, voice low but cutting. "I didn't send it. Someone in your command set a trap." Torres raised an eyebrow, her gaze flickering for a moment, betraying unease. "A good story," she said, signaling the guards. "Cuff them both. To interrogation." The guards advanced, energy cuffs glowing. Lucas tightened his grip, but Vera's cool touch on his arm whispered through a hidden calm in her hair. "Lucas, the signal. Check Torres. She knows something." He nodded subtly, gray eyes resolute. "Lower your weapons," Torres ordered, voice sharp. Lucas slowly complied, but his mind raced. The signal, Torres, a third force, it all connected, and Vera was the key. As the guards cuffed him and Vera, pulling them apart, he caught her gaze one last time. Her red eyes burned, not with fear, but with a promise. They were led away, boots echoing on steel, but Lucas knew this game was only beginning. The door burst open, white light from the steel corridor slicing through the dark. Major Elena Torres stood framed in the doorway, her plasma rifle glowing with deadly intent, her eyes cold as desert stone. Behind her was Lieutenant Chin, face rigid, eyes fixed on Lucas and Vera. "Captain Kane," Torres said, voice sharp as a blade. "You're stripped of command for suspected treason." Her gaze flicked to Vera, cutting like steel. "And you, creature, have corrupted my officer." Lucas stepped forward, shielding Vera, pistol lowered but ready, gray eyes unyielding. "You're wrong, Major," he said, voice low and steady, like stone unmoved. "There's a bigger scheme. The signal, it's not Eryndorian, it's from within the base." Torres's cold laugh rang out, her lips twisting with disdain. "Silence," she snapped, raising her datapad, its screen glowing. "Cell surveillance shows her sending the signal. You're bewitched, Kane." Vera stood behind, body taut, but her red eyes blazed, fearless. "I didn't send it," she said, voice resonant yet sharp, like a desert wind carving stone. "Someone in your command laid a trap." Torres's eyebrow twitched, a fleeting shadow of doubt crossing her face, quickly masked. "Clever tale," she said, voice icy. "Take them to interrogation." Guards advanced, green energy cuffs pulsing in their hands. Lucas tensed, but Vera's cool touch on his shoulder sent a calming jolt. As they were cuffed, she whispered through a tiny comm hidden in her hair, voice faint but clear. "Lucas, the signal, trace Torres. She knows something." He nodded subtly, gray eyes flashing with resolve, a fire smoldering before a storm. The guards separated them, leading them down twin steel corridors, boots echoing like war drums. The interrogation room was frigid, white light from the ceiling stabbing like knives. Vera sat strapped to a metal chair, energy cuffs biting her wrists, their green glow dancing on her silver-gray skin. Across from her, Torres stood, datapad in hand, fingers tapping rhythmically, like a bomb's countdown. "You think you're clever," Torres said, voice sharp, eyes narrowing. "The signal from your cell went to an unknown frequency. Eryndorian spy, just as I expected. Vera tilted her head, red eyes glinting, unblinking. I received, not sent, she replied, voice low but firm, like desert stone unshaken. Someone in the shadows wants you to think I'm a spy. Torres's lips curled in a smile cold as a desert night. Convenient, she said, stepping closer, datapad glowing with surveillance data. Who's behind it? Your father? The Eryndorian Council? Torres leaned in, eyes sharp like a blade cutting through the dark. You don't get it, creature, she said, voice low, laced with a bitter edge, like sand caught in her throat. The Alliance promises peace but abandons thousands on the colonies to chase energy mines. My father died in one, on Titan, under orders from men like Reynolds. She paused, fingers tightening on the data pad, white light illuminating her strained face. The infinite pulse isn't just a weapon, it's how I'll make them all kneel, pay for their lies. Vera watched, red eyes glinting, like a flame reading the pain behind the rage. So you betray your own for revenge? She asked, voice resonant. Torres laughed coldly, turning away, but her eyes flickered, like sinking sand beneath her feet. Vera inhaled, sand still clinging to her hair, glinting under the white light. I'd guess you, Major, she said, voice slow but cutting, like a blade slicing air. Or someone close. Check your personal comm logs. Torres froze, just for a moment, but enough for Vera to catch the flicker in her eyes, like sand shifting underfoot. Back to your cell, Torres snapped, voice cold, turning away. But as the steel door hissed shut, Vera saw Torres glance at her data pad, eyes flashing with worry, like a hunter exposed. The corridor to her cell was dim, the hum of energy cuffs echoing with each step. Vera sat on the cold steel floor, red eyes fixed on a small window where Eryndar's desert roared in the dark. Torres was the key, she was certain. The signal, the falsified reports, all pointed to someone inside the base, and Torres's eyes had confirmed her suspicion. But time was slipping away. Where was Lucas held? And did he trust her enough to keep fighting? Meanwhile, Lucas sat in another interrogation room, far from Vera. His wrists were cuffed, white light highlighting faint scars on his face. Chin stood at the door, rifle lowered, eyes cold but wavering. You've disappointed me, Captain, Chin said, voice low. That prisoner's clouded your judgment. Lucas met his gaze, gray eyes steady. You're wrong, Chin. The signal isn't hers. Check Torres, her comm logs. Chin frowned but said nothing, stepping out, leaving Lucas with the white light and the hum of vents. He gritted his teeth, mind racing. Vera was right, someone in the base was pulling strings, and Torres was the prime suspect. But where was the proof? And why did he trust Vera, an Eryndorian prisoner, over his own comrades? Her kiss, her vow of truth, burned in his memory, a desert wind he couldn't extinguish. Hours dragged, heavy as falling sand. Lucas tested his cuffs, searching for weaknesses, but they held fast. He needed to escape, to find Vera, to uncover the truth. A faint hiss sounded at the door. He looked up, and Chen slipped in, alone, eyes tense. You've got 10 seconds, Chen whispered, voice urgent. I checked Torres's logs. There's an encrypted signal, off official channels. She's hiding something. Lucas narrowed his eyes, voice low. Why help me? Chen shrugged, but his gaze was sharp. Because you don't let war blind you. Move. He keyed a code, and the cuffs fell, their green light fading. Lucas stood, rubbing his wrists, mind racing. Where's Vera? He asked. East Detention Wing. Chen replied, handing him a pistol. System resets in 5 minutes. You've got 4 to reach her. Lucas nodded, sprinting into the corridor, shadows cloaking his steps. The steel halls echoed with his boots, but he moved like a ghost, dodging cameras and patrols. The east wing loomed, its steel door locked tight. He punched in an emergency code, the door hissing open, and Vera stood there, red eyes glinting, as if she'd known he'd come. You're late, Captain, she whispered, a faint smile on her purple lips. Move, Lucas said, tossing her a pistol. They ran, lights flickering as the system reset, distant alarms wailing. Vera led, sensing energy flows in the machinery, as she claimed. They reached the armory, grabbing survival gear and disabling her tracker. Outside, the sandstorm roared, the base's energy field down during the reset. They plunged into the red desert, darkness swallowing them, but Vera's cool hand gripped his, guiding through the chaos. Torres, she whispered, red eyes resolute. She's the key. Lucas squeezed her hand, feeling their pulses merge like the vow upon the wind. They vanished into the dark, but he knew, traps awaited, and the truth would cost more than blood. Lucas paced his cell, boots ringing on cold steel, thoughts churning like Eryndor's sandstorms. Vera's words about Torres haunted him, her anxious glance at her datapad, the falsified reports, the ambush too perfectly timed. He trusted Torres fought beside her, but the pieces now formed a grim picture. Someone in the base was playing a larger game, and Vera was the piece they wanted off the board. But why did he trust her, an Eryndorian prisoner, over those who'd bled with him? A faint hiss broke his thoughts. The cell door slid open, and Lucas snapped up, pistol raised, only to see Lieutenant Chen, alone, eyes tense. "You've got 30 seconds," Chen whispered, fingers flying over the control panel. "Torres is hiding something. I found an encrypted signal from her office, not the Eryndorian cell. System resets in 2 minutes, doors open for 45 seconds. Lucas froze, gray eyes narrowing. Why risk this? Chen shrugged, but his gaze was sharp as a blade. Because you see through the war's fog. Go. The room's lights flickered, the reset beginning. Lucas bolted, a shadow in the steel corridors, dodging cameras and patrols. His mind raced, Torres, the signal, Vera. He needed her, the proof, the truth. The east detention wing loomed, its steel door sealed. Lucas punched in an override code, the door hissing open, and Vera stood at the threshold, red eyes glinting, a faint smile on her purple lips. "You're late, Captain," she whispered, voice resonant like a desert breeze, laced with teasing. Lucas's lips twitched, tossing her a pistol. "Move," he said, voice low. They sprinted, lights strobing as the reset triggered, alarms keening in the distance. They slipped into the armory, shadows their shield. Vera moved swiftly, grabbing heat-resistant cloaks, small oxygen canisters, a plasma dagger. Lucas disabled her wrist tracker, its green light fading. "Hurry," he said, checking the door. Vera nodded, tying her black hair into a warrior's knot, red eyes resolute. They burst out, the sandstorm howling, the base's energy field down. The red desert swallowed them, sand stinging like tiny bullets, but Vera led, her steps sure, as if she felt the planet's pulse through stone and grit. Hours later, they found refuge in a stone cave, hidden beneath a gray cliff. Red sunlight filtered through cracks, casting eerie shadows on the walls, like ancient runes telling Eryndor's tale. Lucas slumped, breath heavy, sweat gleaming on his brow. Vera knelt beside him, checking a burn on his shoulder, a wound from the battle, now swollen red. "You're not built for Eryndor," she said, voice soft, cool fingers brushing his hot skin. "Your body wastes energy fighting the heat." "I'm fine," Lucas rasped, face flushed from the desert cold, voice steady. Vera smiled, red eyes softening, her purple cheeks faintly glinting. "Your skin heats to shed warmth," she said, fingers tracing the wound, applying stolen healing gel. "Eryndorians pull blood inward, to stay cool." She hesitated, eyes lowering, as if weighing her words. "The vow upon the wind, it's to let our blood share your heat. Our greatest vulnerability." Lucas met her gaze, heart pounding like war drums in his chest. "That's why you offered it?" he asked, voice low, gray eyes locked on hers. Vera looked up, red eyes soft but earnest, a flame that never died. "Not just that," she admitted, voice quiet but firm. "You spared me, not for gain, but for mercy. That's rare, in both our kinds." Her words were a breeze through stone, gentle but cutting, touching a deep corner of him. Before Lucas could reply, a pained groan echoed from the cave's depths, sharp as a blade through silence. He drew his pistol, standing, shielding Vera. "Stay," he whispered, but she was already up, plasma dagger glowing, red eyes alert. They crept into the dark, steps light on stone, red light guiding them. In a shadowed corner, they found an Eryndorian warrior, slumped, purple blood pooling on rock, his grey armor torn. His bulbous red eyes, dim with pain, flared at Vera. "Zoran!" Vera cried, kneeling beside him, cool hands checking his wounds. The warrior stared, shock and suspicion in his gaze. "Vera, why are you here? With a human?" He fumbled for a dagger, but Vera caught his wrist, voice urgent. "He's an ally, Zoran. Tell me." Zoran gasped, purple blood trickling from his lips. "I was with a scout team, found a strange signal in the eastern ridges. Not ours, not human. They killed my team. I escaped, but—" Lucas knelt, pistol ready, voice low. "What signal? Who?" Zoran glared, hostility fading with his strength. "Machines, autonomous, glowing silver. Guarding a facility under the mountain. Humans were there, working with them." Vera froze, red eyes wide, glinting like desert stars. "Humans? Who?" Zoran coughed, blood spreading. "Don't know. They called it Infinite Pulse." Lucas and Vera exchanged a glance, his heart racing. The signal, Torres, Infinite Pulse, it all connected. "Tell me more," Lucas pressed, but Zoran shook his head, breath fading. Vera applied gel to his wounds, but her eyes were grim. "He won't last the night," she whispered. Zoran gripped her hand, voice hoarse. "One to counsel, Vera. Don't let this human twist you." Vera squeezed his hand, voice firm. "I choose peace, Zoran. Rest if you can." But Zoran's eyes dimmed, his breath stilled, red glow fading. Vera bowed her head, fingers trembling. Lucas touched her shoulder, voice low. "I need you, Vera. To find the truth." She looked up, red eyes resolute, a desert flame. "Then let's go," she said, standing, dagger in hand. "Eastern ridges. The Infinite Pulse awaits." The storm howled outside, but they had a purpose. Lucas gripped his pistol, feeling Vera's cool touch, a reminder they weren't just fleeing, they were fighting for something greater, a truth only human courage could uncover. Vera knelt beside the Eryndorian warrior, red light from the cave's cracks glinting off his silver-gray skin, streaked with purple blood. "Zoran!" she cried, voice urgent, her cool hands probing the wounds spreading across his chest. Zoran's bulbous red eyes, clouded with pain, flickered with suspicion as they met hers. "Vera, why are you here? With a human?" His trembling hand reached for the plasma dagger at his belt, but Vera gripped his wrist, her red eyes resolute. "He's an ally, Zoran. Tell me." Zoran gasped, purple blood trickling from his mouth, his voice hoarse like sand-laden wind. "I was with a scout team, found a hidden base in the eastern ridges. Not Eryndorian, not human. Strange technology, killed my team. I escaped, but—" He coughed violently, his body shuddering, red eyes dimming. Lucas crouched beside him, plasma pistol ready, gray eyes tense. "What technology?" he asked, voice low but sharp. Zoran's gaze shifted to Lucas, hostility fading with his strength, like a flame about to die. "Autonomous machines, glowing silver," he whispered. "They guarded an energy core beneath the mountain. Humans were there, working with them." Vera froze, her red eyes widening, glinting like desert stars. "Humans? Who?" she pressed, her grip tightening. Zoran coughed again, purple blood pooling on the stone. "Don't know. They called it Infinite Pulse." Lucas and Vera exchanged a glance, his pulse racing like war drums. The encrypted signal, Torres, the Infinite Pulse, the pieces snapped together, revealing a conspiracy beyond their species' war. Vera applied healing gel to Zoran's wounds, her hands trembling slightly, but her eyes were steadfast. "He won't survive the night," she whispered to Lucas, voice low. Lucas nodded, his gaze locked on Zoran. "What else do you know?" Zoran clutched Vera's hand, his breath faint. "I must warn the council," he said, voice bitter, like dry sand in his mouth. Vera shook her head, her red eyes blazing with resolve. "My father won't listen, Not if he's being manipulated, she replied, voice hard as desert stone. Zoran stared, pain and disappointment mingling in his gaze. You choose humans over our people? He rasped, voice breaking, like wind ceasing its song. Vera tightened her grip, her eyes unwavering. I choose peace, Zoran, she said, voice firm, like a vow. Go if you can. Be careful. Zoran tried to nod, but his body slumped, red eyes fading, purple blood stilling. Vera bowed her head, her fingers trembling on the cold stone. Lucas placed a hand on her shoulder, voice low. I need you, Vera. To find the truth. She looked up, red eyes glinting, like an unquenchable desert flame. Then let's go, she said, standing, plasma dagger in hand. Eastern ridges. The infinite pulse awaits. They left the cave, the sandstorm outside calming, leaving a blood-red sky. Vera led, her steps light but sure, as if she sensed the planet's pulse through stone and sand. Lucas followed, plasma rifle ready, mind spinning. A secret base, alien machines, human traitors, it all pointed to the plot Vera had suspected from the start. But who was behind it? Torres? Someone bigger? He gripped his rifle, feeling the cool weight of Vera's dagger in his belt, a reminder they weren't just fleeing, they were fighting. The eastern ridges loomed, gray cliffs rising stark under a crimson sky, like giant blades piercing the heavens. The sandstorm had eased, but the air still carried the sharp tang of scorched metal and dry sand. Vera guided Lucas through narrow stone crevices, sensing energy flows in the rock, her red eyes glinting with vigilance. If the core is a weapon, she whispered, voice low, it could destroy Eryndor. Lucas nodded, rifle lowered, gray eyes cold and sharp. Or it's the key to ending the war. We need to know. They reached a vast cave, its entrance hidden behind faintly glowing purple stones, like the planet's veins. Lucas knelt, inspecting traces, human boot prints, scratches from machinery. This is it, he said, voice hushed. They slipped inside, darkness swallowing them, guided only by the purple glow of the stones. Within, a high-tech complex unfolded, its steel walls gleaming, silver autonomous machines patrolling, their lights twinkling like fallen stars. Lucas hacked a nearby terminal, fingers flying over the controls, the screen flaring with data. Infinite pulse. He read, voice low, eyes narrowing. An ancient civilization's energy source, powerful enough to shatter a planet or provide limitless power. Vera stood beside him, plasma dagger ready, red eyes tense. Who controls it? She asked, voice sharp, like wind cutting stone. Before Lucas could answer, a cold voice echoed from the shadows. I do. Major Elena Torres stepped forward, her black commander's uniform glinting under the purple light, plasma rifle aimed. Behind her were 5 mercenaries in sleek combat armor, and a tall Eryndorian, silver-gray skin gleaming, icy blue eyes sharp as blades. Tactician Drace, Vera whispered, shocked, her grip tightening on her dagger. Drace's cold smile cut like a knife, his blue eyes sweeping over her, as if sizing up a traitor. Vera, you disappoint me, he said, voice deep, like stone cracking. Your father thinks you're dead, yet you ally with humans. Torres smirked, her gaze dripping with contempt. Cain, you should have stayed in your cell, she said, voice sharp. Lucas raised his rifle, gray eyes unwavering. You're betraying humanity, Torres, he replied, voice low but steady, like unyielding stone. For what? Torres's laugh was cold as a desert night. I'm working with Drace to harness the infinite pulse, she said. Humans and Eryndorians will kneel before its power. Vera stepped forward, her plasma dagger blazing, red eyes burning like a desert flame. You betray our people, Drace, she shouted, voice resonant yet sharp. Drace tilted his head, blue eyes glinting with disdain. Your peace is weakness, Vera, he said. The infinite pulse will make Eryndor rule the galaxy. Battle erupted, plasma gunfire deafening, blue and purple light tearing through the dark. Lucas dropped 2 mercenaries, rolling behind a terminal to dodge return fire. Vera charged, her dagger slicing through a machine's armor, sparks flying. They fought as one, Lucas covering, Vera striking, but the enemy's numbers overwhelmed. Torres shouted, "Activate the core!" A mercenary entered a code, and the infinite pulse, a massive silver energy sphere at the complex's heart, flared, its blinding light shaking the mountain. Stone crumbled, the ceiling trembled. Lucas pulled Vera behind a steel wall, breath heavy. "We need to disable it," he said, voice urgent. Vera nodded, red eyes resolute. "I know how. Cover me." They plunged deeper into the complex, dodging machines and mercenaries. Vera hacked a control panel, fingers flying, purple light reflecting on her silver-gray skin. "The core's too strong," she whispered, voice tense. "If we don't stop it, it'll erase everything." Lucas shot down a machine, sparks exploding. "Hurry!" he shouted, back against the wall, rifle blazing. Torres and Drace appeared on a high platform, the core's silver light casting them as specters. "You can't stop it, Kane!" Torres yelled, voice sharp. Vera looked up, red eyes blazing. "I will," she said, entering the final code, the core's light flickering. But Drace leaped down, his purple energy dagger slashing. Lucas pushed Vera aside, taking the blow, the blade cutting through his armor, red blood spilling. He gritted his teeth, firing back, forcing Drace to retreat. Vera completed the code, the core shuddering, its silver light dimming, but the complex began to collapse. "Run!" she shouted, pulling Lucas. They sprinted, stone falling, machines exploding behind them. Torres and Drace were trapped in the rubble, their screams echoing. Lucas and Vera stumbled into the red desert, the crimson sun's light bathing them, blood and sand clinging. They collapsed, breath heavy, hands clasped, as if the vow upon the wind had never faded. The steel corridor shook, shattered stone falling like rain, the screech of autonomous machines echoing in pursuit. Lucas and Vera raced through the collapsing complex, breath labored, sand and blood caking their armor. "The core's overloading!" Vera shouted, her bulbous red eyes glinting with urgency, plasma dagger blazing. "I see a control panel ahead. We need both of us!" Lucas nodded, plasma rifle aimed back, dropping a machine, sparks flying, purple light tearing the dark. They reached the core chamber, a massive silver energy sphere suspended midair, radiating blinding light, pulsing like an angry planet's heart. The central control panel glowed with ancient glyphs, twinkling like desert stars. Vera knelt, fingers flying, red eyes scanning the symbols. "It demands balance," she said, voice urgent. "Both species working together, human and Eryndorian energy." Lucas knelt beside her, gray eyes resolute. "Do it." He placed his hand on the panel, red energy spreading from his touch, like blood flowing through stone. Vera's hand joined, cool blue energy merging, the colors swirling, the panel vibrating, the core stabilizing. The silver light softened, the shaking easing. But a cold voice cut through. "You can't stop it!" Major Elena Torres emerged from the shadows, plasma rifle blazing, flanked by tactician Drace, his icy blue eyes sharp as blades, purple energy staff burning. Vera sprang up, dagger ready, red eyes flaring like a desert flame. "Drace, you betray everything!" she shouted, voice resonant yet sharp. Drace's cold laugh echoed, blue eyes dripping contempt. "Your peace is weakness, Vera," he said, staff raised. "The infinite pulse is power." Torres smirked, rifle aimed at Lucas. "Kane, you should have picked the winning side," she said, voice like shattering stone. Lucas fired, blue light tearing the air, but Torres dodged, returning fire, a bolt striking his shoulder. He gritted his teeth, collapsing, red blood pooling on his armor. Vera screamed, charging, her dagger slashing, forcing Drace back, sparks flying. She knelt by Lucas, cool hands on his wound. "I'm fine," he growled, standing, gray eyes unwavering. "Finish this." They rushed to the panel, hands on it again, red and blue energy merging. The core shuddered, its silver light dimming, but Drace charged, staff slashing. Vera blocked, their weapons clashing, sparks screaming like howling wind. Lucas fired relentlessly, keeping Torres at bay, but she shouted, "Activate the backup!" A mercenary entered a code, and the core flared again, blinding silver light shaking the steel walls. No! Vera cried, red eyes panicked. Drace laughed maniacally. If I can't have it, no one will, he roared, lunging at Lucas. They fell near the core's edge, silver energy screaming below, like a star's abyss. Lucas grappled Drace, but the tactician was stronger, his staff's blade inches from Lucas's chest. Vera rushed forward, grabbing Lucas's hand, pulling hard, red eyes burning. Together! She shouted. Lucas kicked Drace, who slipped, falling into the core, vanishing in the silver light, his scream fading. Torres fled into the corridor, but Lucas pulled his data pad, sending the data to Colonel Reynolds, the one officer he still trusted. Reynolds, apprehend Torres! He shouted through the comm. Vera completed the panel's protocol, the core shutting down, its silver light fading, the shaking stopping. The complex still collapsed, stone falling like rain. Lucas pulled Vera, and they sprinted, dodging exploding machines and fallen mercenaries. The red desert opened before them, the crimson sun's light bathing them, blood and sand clinging. In the distance, Alliance transports landed, reinforcements led by Reynolds flooding in. Torres was captured, energy cuffs tight, her eyes blazing with hatred. The secret base lay in ruins, but the core was safe, sealed for joint research. Lucas and Vera stood together, breath heavy, hands clasped, as if the vow upon the wind had fused them through fire and blood. 6 months later, a research center rose from Eryndor's red desert, its steel and glass towers gleaming under a crimson sun, where humans and Eryndorians worked as one. The infinite pulse, now safely controlled, powered clean energy, opening hope for peace between both species. Lucas and Vera stood atop a ridge, desert wind swirling, carrying the scent of dry sand and metal. He wore his commander's uniform, no longer blood-stained, his arm around her waist. The treaty's signed, Lucas said, voice low, gray eyes gentle. Your father agreed. Vera leaned into him, his warmth blending with her cool skin, like two sides of the same planet. He changed when he saw me fight for peace, she said, voice resonant, red eyes glinting like desert stars. He no longer sees humans as enemies. She smiled, her purple cheeks faintly shimmering. Any regrets about the vow upon the wind? Lucas leaned down, kissing her forehead, feeling her coolness like wind over stone. Only that I didn't meet you sooner, he replied, voice hoarse, eyes sincere. Vera laughed, her red eyes softening, like a flame finding shelter. Don't kill me, human, she whispered, voice teasing yet heavy with the vow's weight. I'll offer the vow forever. Lucas squeezed her hand, feeling their pulses merge, like the red and blue energy on the control panel that day. They walked, hand in hand, down the path to the research center, where humans and Eryndorians built a shared future. The red desert stretched before them, no longer a battlefield. Energy columns from the infinite pulse glowed, like flames of hope in the dark. Lucas looked at Vera, gray eyes shining with faith. They'd faced betrayal, blood, and fire, but her vow upon the wind, her sincere kiss, had guided them through. Now, Eryndor was more than a planet, it was home, where two species learned to harmonize, and where Lucas and Vera found each other. The desert wind sang, carrying their vow, soaring forever.